Bring the shells to the surface, and by bringing the shells to the surface, that means you got to get it on the page. When we have it in our minds, it's genius and it's perfect and wonderful, just like our children are, before they're born, and they become real people. So, you have to get it out of you and onto the page. So how are you going to do it? Francie mentioned the prompts. Anybody ever heard of something called a free write? A prompt, a writing prompt? How many people here have not heard that before? Free write prompt, okay? Enough people. There's enough people, it sounds like it go really quickly through the process. That's one thing I wanted to leave you with tonight, is at least something, some actual action that you can take to get your stuff out on the page. I was mentioning earlier when I was paralyzed in Southern Arizona, and my book would not come to the page. That's what I did. I started doing free writes. So it's not something you just do for a little while you're learning how to be a good writer. You do it all the time, because it really brings the stuff up. I'm going to use a really awful metaphor. I'm going to warn you right up front. It's what I lovingly call the barf draft. So anybody here ever thrown up?
Only one person.
Yeah, just me? Really? Okay. So think about that experience. Now, throwing up, most people think throwing up is a terrible thing to happen, but the truth is that your body doesn't do it for kicks. It does it because it needs to get it out. Something's going on. It's a good thing, actually. It's super dramatic, but it is a good thing. It's just not all that pleasant sometimes. So get it out of yourself. So it's not a controlled experience. Most of the time you don't have much control over it at all. But where is it coming from? From the bottom of your guts. It's coming from the bottom of your feet, actually. And that's the best thing that could possibly happen. And one of the ways that you can really get that stuff out of you is by this thing called a free write or a prompt. It's unedited, free-for-all, and it's for your right brain to just go nuts and just dredge up all kinds of great stuff for you. And then you can pick through it later, just let's forget about that. And so I said, you know what, you can clean it up later. Don't worry about it. The important thing is to get that stuff out of you. Sometimes it's so intense you can't believe it. Sometimes it's so funny, or it's so dear, or it's so charming, or so crazy, or so elegant. You just can't even believe it. Anybody had that that's done free writes? You say, did that come out of me? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's amazing. But it is you, by the way. It is you. And that's what's waiting there for you. And you got to get it out. So you need a barf wrap. And how you do that, quite often, is by a writer's prompt. So we're going to do that in a second. I'm going to literally give you the steps to do it. And if you haven't done it, take this home and try it. I'm going to get you to do it here. Yes, we have time to do that in a second. And it's super easy, and it just takes practice. And the more you do it, the more, your psyche says, oh, yay, you get to unload all this great stuff, whether you like it or not. Okay. You got to open it up. So the opening it up is what I call unpacking a story. So once you get the barf draft done, or you open up the shells, you get to take a look at what's in there. Now, not every oyster has a pearl, correct? Right. Not every story is going to be really what you're looking for. You might use it later, or it's just junky. And you can save it for later, and then write a poem out of it. When somebody says, hey, I thought you were supposed to have that poem ready for me tomorrow. Then you go back through all the stuff and you go, wow, I didn't notice that thing. Yeah. So here's another thing, don't throw away anything. Really, don't. Don't throw away anything. If you've got a computer, you can keep everything you write. Keep it, because you have no idea when you might just need it someday. It's wonderful. So it's not like keeping reams and reams of paper. Somebody's hand?
Yeah. What was the second step?
First one was gather the tools you need, dive down deep, bring the shells to the surface, which is through the free write.
Right.
Open them up. The opening up is the unpacking. Go into it. Build layers in. Really take a look at it. Look at it from angles. Really, anybody ever found like an old clothing chest or something like that? And you just want to take one thing out and another. And you take it out and you look at it and you turn around and you look at it at the light And it's just a fascinating journey, just unpacking this stuff. If anybody's ever put something in storage and then opened the box 5 years later, it's like, wow, it's fantastic. Do that with every piece of your memoir story. Because at first glance, you look at the surface of the box, you pull off the newspaper, oh, it's just a bunch of junk. And you start going through, and you might find some real gems in there. Unpack. Find the pearls at the heart of the story. We talked about that already. Once you've found the heart of that story, that pearl, then continue on that metaphor. Polish them. And here's the construction part. We've now been in the art part. Remember the art and engineering? Now we're going to the engineering. This is where you start to look at it. You step back. You look at the big picture. Here's all your pearls. Again, even a pile of beautifully polished pearls does not the memoir make. Pearls are all the little stories that are within that story. So you think you know when you go and take a trip, the trip is the big story, right? You know, there's the trip, and then there's all the little tiny stories of all the stuff that happened in that trip, right? Those are all the pearls you're going to string together in a certain order, because it shouldn't be random. So you decide, okay, I'm going to arrange them chronologically, because it makes sense to do that. So there's lots of options in doing that. You can organize the pearls chronologically, but not every memoir has to be in chronological order. And here's a tip. If how it moved along through time is really important to the memoir, then arrange it by moving through time in a certain way. If it shows how things changed over time, or how time affected the story, but don't just go ahead and do it chronologically, because, you know, it may or may not be your best choice. Sometimes it's just what we do automatically, but there might be other ways of doing it.
So it's okay to bounce around then?
You betcha.
Yeah.
In fact, I would suggest it.
Yeah.
Unless it is critical that you're moving through time in a very uniform way. You ever seen the TV show 24?
Yeah.
They're going tick, tick,
Yeah.
tick. So it's really important that they are actually moving through in chronological time, right? Because they're showing how this minute led to that minute, that led to that minute, that led to that minute. It doesn't necessarily have to be. So, you know, you can mix it up. Telescoping in and out. People say, oh, people get mixed up. Well, flashbacks you could do a whole week on flashbacks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so let's just not call them flashbacks, let's call them memories. Let's just call them memories.